President Trump has picked a bad time for a meltdown. People are now once again questioning and doubting his stability. And Washington Post has done an incredible story on what really happened. The New York Times is also reporting on this. This is everywhere. Even Matt Drudge has said he's got to clean out the entire West Wing because the leaks are bigger than anybody has seen, at least in modern history of leaking at the White House, and shows that Donald Trump is very alone in his own West Wing. And you know, when Matt Drudge is saying this could bring down the presidency, these leaks could bring down the presidency, you've got some problems. Washington Post is reporting 30, in their story, they have 30 unnamed sources verifying exactly what happened. 30.
Yeah, and it's 30 officials at the White House, the Justice Department, the FBI, and on Capitol Hill, as well as Trump confidants and other senior Republicans.
30.
Wow.
I mean, you know, remember, Watergate was, can you get a second source? 30. President Trump is, did you see the cover of Time magazine yet? They just went and did a tour of the White House with Donald Trump. And they hired this avant-garde photographer who said, I wanted you to feel the White House as he feels the White House. So he took this tour, but he took all of the pictures with Donald Trump kind of way back. It was just him and Donald Trump walking through the White House. And he said, you know, everybody on the outside says that they hate him. He's in the inside and he's got people who are leaking like a sieve. He said, I wanted to present how lonely he must feel. And so these pictures are stunning because he created that. I mean, I know this is art and culture creating even more of the myth, but it's how Donald Trump must feel today because he can't know who to trust in his own White House now with 30 leaks. Who do you trust?
It doesn't necessarily mean that he did anything wrong here.
No.
What's interesting about it is when you start firing people that others respect, you get enemies. You get batches of them. And 30 sources doesn't mean necessarily, I mean, they could all be lying. Let's just take the best possible Trump scenario here. All of those 30 people are lying. The problem with that is you create, and I don't believe that, but you create a group of people who don't like you. This happened, it happens in sports all the time, as I look at Jeffy instead of Glenn, to give the reference. But for example, the Philadelphia Eagles, my favorite team, by the way, had Chip Kelly, the head coach, for 3 years. And Chip Kelly went 10-6, 10-6, and 7-9. So he didn't make the playoffs his last year, 2 of the 3 years, but he had good records. He had above 500 record when they fired him. And the reason they fired him was not because they couldn't win any games. It was because over time, he had created so many enemies inside the organization. He was constantly being hit in the media. He was bad at dealing with that stuff. And one of the big issues that led to his dismissal was because the organization, inside the organization, they just didn't like him anymore.
So here's the thing. Donald Trump has made so many, let's say he's right on everything. Donald Trump has made so many enemies politically. As soon as his, quote, friends, which I don't think he has very many friends, as soon as his friends see that he's a wounded animal, he's in trouble because they will all scramble for the hills because they're all weasels. Mm-hmm. They're all weasels. And we know that about everybody in Washington. However, he doesn't help himself. This isn't just about firing Comey. He could have come out and said, and fired him long ago, saying, look, I don't trust him. He is under employment at my discretion. He works for the executive branch. He works for me. I can replace him at any time for any reason. I don't like him. I don't trust him. Now, this is yesterday on TV, we were talking about this and we're going over it and I'm like, okay, so this doesn't make sense you remember, it's the opposite of Barack Obama giving the order to kill Osama bin Laden. Remember, that took him months. Took him, like, what, 6 months to make that decision? By the way, in an hour from now, we have the guy who pulled the trigger and killed Barack Obama. Or not Barack Obama, Osama bin Laden. We have him on here in about an hour, and he's fascinating. He's got some new things to talk about. But it took him forever to make that decision. That was the easiest decision in the world. Yesterday, we started talking about Donald Trump. Okay, so the deputy director of the deputy attorney general comes out and has this letter. Then the attorney general comes out with a letter. And within hours, that started in the morning. Within hours, that afternoon, Comey was fired. There were 3 letters that were written. Deputy director, the assistant attorney general, the attorney general, and then Donald Trump's, all within 6 hours. You don't make a decision that big, that fast. And 2 days ago, they were saying, well, it's because, I mean, look, even, what's his name, Rothstein or whatever, even he's saying, and he worked. Okay, what you didn't know was Tuesday night, Wednesday, he was thinking about quitting because Donald Trump asked him to write that letter. I want you to make a case on why he needs to be out. And then Donald Trump went and said, it's because of him. I mean, look at what he's writing.
Right, and apparently he didn't like that. Again, that's a...
Would you?
No, not at all. That is one report. We don't. That's only one source that's saying that at this point. However...
but we have multiple sources.
The Trump administration is now admitting that their desire to fire Comey predated him even being in the administration.
Because some of these 30 sources talked about what even happened this weekend.
Yeah.
He did not like Comey for 2 reasons. Donald Trump didn't like Comey for 2 reasons. Multiple sources on this. One, he didn't like, when was it, Monday during testimony, that Comey said he felt squeamish.
He said nauseous. It was mildly nauseous.
I'm mildly nauseous to think about that what I did might have influenced the election.
But I would have done the same thing anyway.
Correct. So Donald Trump interpreted that. How else? What, you didn't like that I won? You didn't want to help me? No. The director of the FBI should not be doing anything to affect an election. If I thought I did anything to affect an election and I'm a government official in that role, I'd be squeamish too.
Right. It had nothing to do. He was not bashing Donald Trump with that comment.
Donald Trump took it as a personal slam.
Yes.
There's a second reason that Donald Trump didn't like Comey.
Yes, he in a earlier statement, he was talking about
I threw it to you because I couldn't remember it either. Isn't that funny?
I should have known.
Yeah,
we talked about him right before we went on the air.
Yeah, we were just discussing this.
We'll come back. We'll come
back to it. Okay, so Donald Trump took them as I remember what it was. He wouldn't go and look into the leaks.
He
wouldn't pursue it as no.
He didn't defend him on the wiretapping.
Wiretapping.
That's what he said. Right. He said in a previous testimony, I have no evidence to support those tweets.
Correct.
When it came to Obama wiretapping him.
Now, the one thing that I have heard from the White House that I agree with is that Donald Trump didn't like the fact that he didn't pursue the tweets or the leaks. That he wasn't looking into who leaked the information. I think that's Susan Rice, and I think that's really, really important. We have to know about Russians, and we have to know and hold them responsible on who leaked information. So he didn't like that they weren't pursuing the leaks as much as he wanted. He didn't like the fact that he wouldn't back him up on wiretapping. And he didn't like that he said he was mildly nauseous from the idea that he affected the election. That last one apparently was the last straw. And that's when Donald Trump apparently had been raging over the weekend about it. And then that happened. And that's when he called everybody in.